Hey everybody, happy Monday. All right, so we are on John chapter 5. Okay, this one will be another couple videos probably because it's quite a long chapter. But anyways, let's get started. So later on, there was a Jewish festival or feast for which Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem a pool near the sheep gate. This pool in the Hebrew is called Bethsaida. Bethsaida was a place. Bethesda, having 5 porches or alcoves or doorways. And in these lay a great number of sick folk, some blind, some crippled, and some paralyzed or shriveled up, waiting for the bubbling up of the water. Verse 4, for an angel of the Lord went down at appointed seasons into the pool and moved and stirred up the water. Whoever then first, after the stirring up of the water, stepped in, was cured of whatever disease with which he was afflicted. There was a certain man there who had suffered with a deep-seated and lingering disorder for 38 years. It's a long time. When Jesus noticed him lying there helpless, knowing that he had already been a long time in that condition, he said to him, "Do you want to become well? Are you really in earnest about getting well?" The invalid answered in verse 7, "Sir, I have nobody when the water is moving to put me into the pool, but while I am trying to come up into it myself, somebody else steps down ahead of me." And verse 8, Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your bed, sleeping pad, and walk." Verse 9, instantly the man became well and recovered his strength and picked up his bed and walked. But that happened on the Sabbath. Okay, so I'm just going to stop there for a second. So that's the first 9 verses. Okay, so basically what you have here is you have this this area in Jerusalem where there's this pool. And every what did it say? It says, for an angel of the Lord went down at appointed seasons. So basically, I guess God had these predestined times where this angel would come and stir up the water, and whoever got into the water first got healed. Okay, kind of weird. I'll admit, I have no idea why God does it that way and why he chose to, who knows, why he chose to do things the way he did. But that's what he did. So anyways, there was a whole bunch of people there, like blind people and sick people and all kinds, crippled, paralyzed. So they would go there and wait for this angel to come and stir the water up. And then they'd all sprint to this pool. So anyway, Jesus was, I guess, walking through here. And in saying that, I believe that the Father would tell Jesus to go specific places for a reason. Now, whether or not Jesus knew what that reason was until he got there, I don't know. But his Father obviously made him walk through Samaria to meet the Samaritan woman. Okay, so that was destiny. That was pre-planned by the Father. I believe this is another incident where the Father said, "Okay, Jesus, I want you to go and walk through this little alcove where this pool is." And Jesus sees this man, and he was sick for 38 years, which is a long time. And he noticed him, it says in verse 6, he noticed him lying there helpless, knowing that he'd been like that for a long time. And he asked him a question, right? And I mean, maybe to us it's like, well, duh. And he says in verse 6, he said to him, do you want to become well? Are you really in earnest about getting well? Right? And like, you kind of think, Jesus, are you serious? Like, the guy's obviously there for a reason. He's waiting for this angel. And yet Jesus still asks him. And I don't know, I can speculate, but you almost think Jesus is really challenging him and saying, listen, how much do you want to get well? Are you willing to even try? Do you have the faith to even try? And maybe this is what he was doing. He was testing his faith to see, do you really want well, or are you just laying there and feeling sorry for yourself, right? And here's the invalid's response in verse 7. "Sir, I have nobody when the water is moving to put me into the pool, but while I am trying to come into it myself, somebody else steps down ahead of me." Right? So obviously he has tried, which, I guess Jesus says, okay, then you have made some effort. You do have the faith to be healed, or else you wouldn't even bother trying to get down into the pool. So you do have faith that when the water is stirred, you're going to get healed or somebody's going to get healed. So the man had that faith to at least try to get into the pool, right? And so Jesus says to him, well, get up, pick up your bed, and walk, right? So just like that. And he doesn't mince his words. He doesn't say, well, I'll drag you down into the pool myself, or I'll make sure one of my disciples does it. No, he just tells him, well, get up and pick up your sleeping mat, right? And obviously I think that was the Father's desire, was that man be healed, because he had the faith to be healed. Now, I'll just read verse 9. Instantly the man became well and recovered his strength and picked up his bed and walked. But that happened on the Sabbath. So the Jews kept saying to the man who had been healed, it is the Sabbath and you have no right to pick up your bed. It is not lawful. Okay, so we'll stop there. So anyway, the point is the guy got healed, right? Now, obviously we can read the things that did happen. Here are some things that didn't happen. Jesus didn't heal all the people there. He didn't heal every single person, right? Now, this is simply from my own understanding, from my own reading. But this is, this is what I gather, is that there was a lot of other sick people there and Jesus didn't heal them all. Okay, so I personally don't believe that God heals everybody. I think, there's a lot of factors in it. I think, yes, if you don't have the faith to be healed, then that will be a big hindrance to you getting healed, if that's what the Father wants. But the Father didn't have Jesus heal them all, right? He had Jesus heal this one guy. And the guy was healed because he heard what Jesus said, pick up your bed and walk. And he actually did it. He obeyed, and he had faith to actually stand up and even try. And his faith made him well, and his obedience made him well, right? But everybody else didn't get healed. So that's just something to mull over. There are a lot of pastors and preachers. There are a lot of teachers. There are a lot of churches that would teach and preach that God wants to heal everybody. It's our own lack of faith. It's, we're not holding God to his word and blah, blah, blah. And I just, okay, I understand you're trying to encourage people to have faith and to pray and to ask. And you know what? The Bible does say ask. It says seek and keep on seeking, ask and keep on asking, knock and keep on knocking, right? And I'm all for seeking that and not giving up on prayer, on asking the Father for things, right? I'm all for that. But if God has given you an answer for a time, that's his answer. If God has not healed you, then that's his answer for that season, right? It doesn't mean you don't keep asking, but it just means you don't, all your hope and all your faith does not rely on that one answer, on that one thing that you're asking for, right? Because even Paul, people say, it's, I believe faith, healing is for everyone, if we just have enough faith. And it's like, okay, Apostle Paul, there wasn't that many other people who had as much faith as the Apostle Paul, and who wrote more than half of the New Testament, probably, and yet he had a thorn in his flesh, and he asked repeatedly. I think he asked God 3 times to take it away, and God said, no, my grace is sufficient for you. I'm giving you this thorn in the flesh to keep your head from getting big and getting prideful, right? So now there's scholars that say, but it wasn't a physical ailment and whatever. Come on. Did he have a literal thorn in his flesh, or it's most likely it was something physical. Plus, he was going blind. He was very, he couldn't really see very well, which is why he got some of these guys that stayed with him to write these letters for him, because he couldn't see, right? So all that to say, I personally don't believe God heals everybody. I think there's probably a lot more people that he would heal if they had faith, or I do think that there's personal responsibility here, personally. And that is people who, there's a lot of illnesses nowadays that are down to diet, that are down to really crappy eating, and people think that they can eat whatever they want and there's no consequences. Well, if you put diesel in a petrol car, what is going to be the consequences? You'll screw your engine up. Same if you do it the other way. You can't put in crap in your car and expect it to go and to run like it should. You can't put crap in your body and expect it to run the way it does, right? Really quickly, God instructed Adam and Eve in Genesis chapter 2 what they could eat. What would be the ideal diet for them, which was a plant-based diet, right? So all of you who love your McDonald's, who love your Chineses, who love your Burger Kings, and who are sick and constantly have problems with inflammation, with arthritis, with things like that, and you keep praying for healing, I believe you can heal yourself. And, you know, not that God can't heal you, but when he gives you the tools to heal yourself, and he gives you information and all this stuff, and I'm a real advocate of eating, you know, really well, you know, you have no excuse. Not to say that he can't heal you, but come on, we can't eat all the chocolate bars we want and then cry and whine and complain that we're fat. You know. So anyways, that's my whole spiel. I don't want to get sidetracked. I already have, but anyways. So the guy gets healed, right? And then he gets in trouble because the Jews said, "Oh, you're working on the Sabbath." Now, crazy, but to pick up your mat and to walk was considered to be work, right? Because you weren't supposed to do any kind of work on the Sabbath. It was meant to be a day of rest. But the Jewish religious men or people went to the extreme. They took something that God said. He instructed us to observe the Sabbath. Why? Because he knew that when we work for 6 days, we need a day of rest. We need to know how to shut off and just take it easy. But God wasn't saying that, so, okay, you can't do a thing. You can't even lift a fork. You know, he's saying, here's the point. Here's the spirit of the law. Relax. Take it easy. You have 6 other days to do your work and to do your job and to make money. Relax on the 7th. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your time of rest. You know, but here we go. Here's typical man taking something of God and like adding to it and trying to make it their own. So they freaked out on him and said, you're doing work on the Sabbath. So it is the Sabbath and you have no right to pick up your bed. It is not lawful. He answered them, "The man who healed me and gave me back my strength, he himself said to me, pick up your bed and walk." So the sick man was referring to Jesus. They asked him, "Who is the man who told you pick up your bed and walk?" Right? So they're now questioning him. Hold on, Noah. Come here. Now the invalid who had been healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had quietly gone away. He passed on unnoticed. Sorry. There you go. All right, take it out. Nope, take it out, please. Since there was a crowd in the place. Afterwards, verse 14, when Jesus found him in the temple, he said to him, "See, you are well. Now stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." So, there's something interesting. Obviously, the man's sin had played a part in his illness. Now, whether it was a curse or whether it was just, you know, something, it doesn't say specifically what his sin was, but it obviously had made him sick. So, there you go. Sometimes sin and a curse can keep us bound physically. You know, what happened with the woman who was bent over for lots of years, and Jesus had to cast the demon out because it was making her ill. So there you go. That's something to ask the Holy Spirit if you're constantly sick. Why am I constantly sick, right? So anyway, the man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who made him well. Verse 16, for this reason, the Jews began to persecute, annoy, torment Jesus, and sought to kill him because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. But Jesus answered them, "My Father has worked even until now. He has never ceased working. He is still working, and I too must be at divine work." And I love this verse. It's one of my favorites. I'll have to try and memorize the verse. And this is Jesus' response. "My Father has worked even until now. He has never stopped working, and he is still working, and I too must be at his work as well," right? And it says the Jews were even more determined to kill him because in their eyes he was not only breaking the Sabbath, but he was actually speaking of God being his own Father and making himself, which would make himself equal on an equal level with God. Why do I love that verse? Because it is a great reminder to us when we are in a season of waiting, when we are in a season of like wondering, what the heck are you doing, God? Why are you taking so long? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you moving? There's the verse. Jesus said it himself. My Father is always working. He's not sitting there twiddling his thumbs, getting preoccupied, watching the birds. No, our Father is always working in our lives, whether we see it or not, whether we realize it or not. He is always working. He is always doing something according to his will, according to his perfect plan and his sovereignty. And so we don't have to worry about that. Do we have to exercise patience? Yes. Do we have to exercise self-discipline? Yes. But we can trust that he is moving. Even when it doesn't seem like it, he is moving. I love it. Anyways, be blessed.